The family legend goes, great-grandpa would stand for weeks on end in the field and stare into the dark until one night the devil took him. As I am standing on my balcony looking into the dark for the fourth night in a row, I realize the thing that took him is hereditary. I thought being able to see the percentage chance of my death would make me feel safer. The feeling faded when I saw the number hit 90 when I crossed my doorstep. 2 weeks ago, when my boyfriend asked to borrow $5,000 for a matter of life or death, I was confused. Now, as the stranger in my house approaches me to fire a second shot, I understand. "Your total is $9.11, please pull forward," I said, a single tear running down my cheek as I spoke quietly into the headset. I watched the masked man run the knife repeatedly into the manager on the floor, knowing I would be next if another customer lingered too long. I once sought asylum in an old woman's home during a storm with the only condition that I do the same for someone in return. It was frightening when she turned to dust right in front of me, but now, 80 years later, I'm praying for someone to knock on this door. My wife and I had another fight over me getting home drunk, so I threw our new vase at her face. Now her ashes are all over her portrait. As an oceanographer, I've gotten used to going long stretches without seeing land. But according to the ship's GPS, we should be about 70 miles inland and we still haven't seen any. "Your wife has the most severe tapeworm infestation we've ever seen. She's lucky to be alive," the doctor said. "She needed help. How else did you expect her to lose the baby weight?" said her unfazed husband. "The mass in your colon does not appear to be a malignant tumor, sir," the doctor explained. "However, it does appear to be hatching." I always thought it was hilarious to scare my little brother by tapping his left shoulder and moving to the right. Now, standing over his grave, it's not so funny when I feel a tap on my left shoulder and spin round to see no one there. If I hear the neighbors screaming again, I'm calling the police, I told the apartment manager. As you should, no one has rented that room in 10 years. My friends all ran for higher ground when the tide suddenly receded. I was left alone on the beach, buried up to my neck, watching the horizon get higher and higher. As the report of a serial murder was broadcast on the news, the police officer in charge of the case said it might be the most dangerous criminal we've seen in years. I was flattered. I thought my cat was eating something under my bed. But when I checked, something was eating my cat. "I fold," he finally admitted, attempting to steady his shaking hands. Watching his spine snap and bend until his neck touched his ankles, I realized how serious this game had become. He had smiled from a distance, as the children frolicked behind their house in the waning sun. But as sunset became twilight, the darkness settled on him and he could see the bones beneath their skin. "Mom, I don't want to see Grandma and Grandpa, they smell weird." "Shut up and dig. Go find Daddy," my mother asked me. I pointed at the cooking pot. She went silent. My therapist had told me to look at my hallucinations through my phone camera to prove they weren't real. Ignoring the grinning thing staring from my closet, I opened the camera app to find its blank eyes right in front of me. Her favorite part of the job was playing with all the cute, chubby babies that came in to work. Thank goodness she was fired from her job working at the morgue last month. I awoke at 8 a.m. like usual only to find that it was pitch dark. But as I rubbed my eyes out of confusion, I felt the stitches. We allowed the dogs to get the scent of the missing man and we followed them all to different spots in the forest. We were confused at first until we started digging and it turned out that they were all sort of right. Whenever I considered killing myself to escape my parents' abuse, I'd just recite my mantra, "You don't deserve to die." Ironically, now that they are old, hungry, covered in bedsores, and begging to be put out of their misery, I still have the same mantra. All my life, my parents have told me not to open the basement door, but I got curious and disobeyed them. What is that glowing ball in the sky and why does it hurt my eyes? When the kidnapper made me guess where he kept my daughter, I went for the basement and he said correct, allowing me to see her. But when I found her severed head in there, I learned that every other choice would have been correct as well. I framed the first letter I got as a police officer, from a woman thanking me after I'd supported her through her daughter's suicide. I passed it in my hallway every day for nearly 8 years before realizing the handwriting was the same as on the girl's suicide note. Now be careful, that line of rock salt is the only thing keeping them out, the man said, welcoming my group into his refuge. Sea salt, I clarified, sea salt keeps us out. My husband has been very upset with me since my failed suicide attempt. He's crying nonstop and he won't acknowledge me. As I slit her throat, I looked in her unblinking eyes and realized too late that she wanted to live. I knew it to be true because mirrors don't lie. Please, take me instead, I screamed, grabbing at the 2 men who took my child. Sorry ma'am, children only, they said, as they continue loading up the last lifeboat on the ship. So it turns out you can feel everything that happens to your body after death. I suppose I should be flattered my husband still finds me attractive after all these years. When the tsunamis hit, most people were evacuated. Feeling the trickle of water rise to my chin, I let go of the prison bars in bitter resentment. It's been almost a decade since I last saw my mother. And she still reminds me every day that if I misbehave again she'll take my hearing too. They say you die once when you stop breathing and a second time when someone says your name for the last time. Sitting alone in my dilapidated apartment for years now, I realize it's not always in that order. Yesterday I visited my boyfriend, who was serving a life sentence in prison. As I watched that asshole shaking and pissing himself with fear, I knew he finally regretted beating me to death. My grandmother died giving birth to my mother, who died giving birth to me. As I feel my consciousness slip away, I pray that my baby is a boy. They say we have a primal sense, that we can just feel when someone is watching us. It's been a few weeks, and it's clear that you do not have that sense. Bullets flew through the mall, ripping clothes to shreds. In the chaos, no one noticed the mannequins bleeding. Daddy made me sit in the chair while he tied a string from my tooth to the doorknob. Before he slammed the door, he said, "Tell me where mommy went, and we can stop doing this." I frantically ran to Walmart's customer service to pick up my son who got lost in the store. "Nice try, sir," his father already picked him up. After her best friend Julia committed suicide, my daughter Sarah started a charity in her honor to combat cyberbullying. While it took a lot of work to finally push Julia over the edge, my husband and I are just so happy that Sarah can add this activity to her college applications. After giving birth, I asked when the young redhead nurse will be back with my baby. There's apparently no nurses working here by the description. In his last days, Grandpa would weep and rave about the fires of hell, and I wondered how such a good man could fear such a thing. After the funeral I found the photographs, and learned for the first time that his days in Buchenwald had not been spent as a prisoner. My wife told me she thinks that she is going mad as she keeps hearing voices in our house. After she committed suicide, my girlfriend helped me remove all the hidden speakers from around the house. It seems you have discovered an entirely new type of termite. I felt the terror rise in my chest as the doctor turned around with the x-rays. This also explains the aching you've been feeling in your bones. The sound of my son calling for my help grew fainter and fainter. As the batteries in my hearing aids died, I realized it would soon be impossible for me to find him in time. After I killed myself to escape my tormentor, I lost all my memories as I was reincarnated in a new body. The mother held her newborn child in her arms and said, "Did you think you could get away that easily?" I decided to kill off a few characters in the book I'm writing. It would definitely spice up my autobiography a little.